Hi everybody, this is Liz with 143 Handmade, and I'm here to put the finishing touches on my first square for the Great Big Little Stitchery Swap, hosted by Annie over at Annie Claxton. I just found her recently. She's so bubbly. so bubbly. So, she has very unique art. I didn't get to swap with her this time, but she organized this swap for everybody. Well, semi-organized it. She kind of started it, and then it kind of took off. So, this is my first little square. These are flowers that I tatted, and then I just did some basic embroidery. The tree, I'm torn about the tree. I'm not sure if I want to add more green to it or not, because I was thinking about adding some of this brighter green, because there's only the darker green. So I still a little undecided about that, but I'm gonna go ahead and with this cream color just run a stitch around the outside to anchor the two squares together for sure. So let's see, my slow stitching. I have been slow stitching off and on my whole life. My grandmother and my mother taught me to stitch when I was very young. They kind of took the joy out of it for criticizing the back of it. But, you know, not intentionally or anything. You know, it wasn't like nasty. It just, you know, my grandma was just very picky. And, so I didn't stitch for a long time, you know, and then I had a bunch of kids, and, well, you know, I guess that's relative, but I had kids, and slow stitching just became, you know, back burner thing. And then I picked up cross stitch again, and cross stitch, I always thought that cross stitch was like my first love when it comes to stitching. But I really think that it was just the one that I could do that I wouldn't get criticized for the back on, because I could keep it neat enough for them. But recently I just finished hand quilting a quilt for my son. It's the first hand quilted quilt I've ever done, and the frame for it was absurd, and it was ridiculous design is what it was. And I'm so glad I did it, and I would love to do another hand stitched quilt on a good quality frame, but that frame has already been reallocated, the wood from it. We've already built some dog and cat toys out of it, because it was lightweight wood, and so it gave us the wood that we needed to create a couple of games for our German Shepherds, and we just needed a piece of wood to hang, just to easily hang stuff off of for our cats in one of our, in what we call the cat room. So, but I will most definitely be hand stitching another quilt. That was amazing. Or hand quilting another quilt. It was so much fun. It was the first time I've done a big stitching project like that was messy. And I didn't worry about the back at all, even though it's going to be seen. And I know that's crazy, right? But, you know, it was for my son. He knew it was the first one I had ever hand quilted, and he actually hand quilted a square himself. And because he does a little bit of slow stitch anyways on junk journal covers and whatnot. And so he did a square too, and he was not at all concerned, you know, with how the back was going to look, and he thought that it would be interesting to see the back of the stitches. And so, yeah, that was just, it was so much fun. Definitely be doing that again, but with a much better frame. And so until then, I'm going to be working on these smaller projects. I've been inspired both by Annie and oh, sorry about that. Both by Annie and by greatly by Susan over at Susan Hiles Art to get back into my slow stitching. And after this great big little stitchery swap, I will be starting some wall hangings, and I can't wait. So much fun. I have several projects ready, waiting. One is a vintage fabric scroll where it's my grandmother's and great-grandmother's linens, you know, the very delicate linens that are falling apart, pillowcases and stuff of that nature, that just need to be tacked onto something else so that way they don't just, you know, crumble in a plastic bag in storage, you know. So I'm going to stitch them onto a scroll with just a little piece of fabric. And then I created these oversized faux thread spools to put them on. So I'll be showing that. So you might hear my puppy. She's asking to come in. I will let her in just a minute after I'm done. The one you're hearing is one of my two 1.5 old German Shepherd pups. And so, I mean, they're 1.5 old, so like, are they puppies or are they not puppies? They're kind of in that in between, right? And we're working on learning patience and taking turns right now because patience is in short supply. You know, it's just age appropriate. It's not like excessive or anything like that. They're actually really well behaved, but still. So there we go. It's stitched on. Really held down now. It did go a little, you know, skew-whiff, a little cockeyed, but you know, I think it still looks cute like that. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and call that one done. So thank you so much for joining me for my very first episode of Threaded Thursday, and which just also happens to be a installment in the Great Big Little Stitchery Swap. So thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, please.